I'm Damien Fowler.
And I'm Alison Levin.
And welcome to this edition of The Current Podcast.
This week, we're delighted to talk with Alison Levin, who joined NBCUniversal as the President of Advertising and Partnerships earlier this year.
Alison oversees all ad sales initiatives for NBCUniversal across national and local markets, as well as for the company's Peacock streaming service, which will be the streaming home for over 5,000 hours of Olympics coverage for the first time.
It's no doubt going to be a summer of sport for the legacy broadcaster, which owns the media rights to the Olympics through 2032. And for the first time, those slots on Peacock are open to programmatic buyers.
But that's not all. Just this week, NBCUniversal returned to Radio City Music Hall in New York City for its annual upfront presentation, celebrating the company's diverse slate of programming. We started by asking Alison about this year's event.
Yeah, I mean, this is such an incredible, busy time of year for all of us. And it really is such a great forcing function to take a step back and to have these conversations with clients, both agencies and our brand partners, about what it is that they're excited for the next 12 months. How do we want to partner together? And what does the future hold, right? There's so many conversations that are in quarter often, but this is the opportunity to really look ahead and talk about the future of our work together. So I would say, from the conversations we've been having, and we've been having, hundreds of conversations across clients and agencies, we're really hearing two big themes that are coming out. And the first is about strategic audiences. So for those of us that have been in digital for a long time, this isn't a surprise that, buying off of a more precise audience, like someone who's in market for a car or household income or leveraging a client's first party data, is just a more effective way to place media than buying adults 18 to 49. Someone had said to me once that adults 18 to 49 is a family reunion. It's not a buying tactic, right? And it's stuck with me ever since. And we are hearing loud and clear from clients that they are really excited to move into more precise audiences, not just in streaming and across digital, but really looking at it on the linear side too, and having one buying tactic across the full portfolio. And, when you think about consumers, at the end of the day, we're all consumers, we're all viewers. And viewers have a relationship with IP, not delivery mechanism, right? And so as marketers, we're hearing from marketers, they want to have that same execution strategy. And they really want to find their target audience wherever they may be across a full portfolio in a more precise way. So I say that's one key theme we're hearing a lot about. And of course, that has great implications on programmatic. It has implications on our one platform total audience product, Opta, and how we actually help leverage data to find our audience across our full portfolio. And then another really interesting conversation that's been coming up quite a bit, and we just were in a client meeting this morning where this was front and center, but was how can we partner with our brands to tell stories within our stories? Right? And if you just take a step back, storytelling is, the fundamental part of our foundation. It's how we have learned as human beings, how we've grown. It's our number one form of entertainment, is being entertained by stories. And I include sports in that. There is a beginning, middle, end of sports. And so as we talk to marketers, they really want to help and work together to stand out, to tell stories within our stories. Even thinking about Jake from State Farm, that's a story, right? These brand champions are storytellers too. So I'd say the combination of what we're hearing a lot in market is strategic audiences. So moving to more precise audiences across linear and streaming, and then going deeper in big content moments, whether that be sports or Bravo or big live events like Thanksgiving Day Parade and more.
That's really interesting. So it's actually getting quite granular, and clients have to pay attention to what's actually happening in the programming.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's really how these moments stand out, is taking IP together and helping infuse a brand into the IP.
I'm going to switch a little bit, but related, but obviously it's going to be a big summer for NBCUniversal with the Paris Olympics, which you have the media rights to in the US. And I've been hearing that you've been setting out major events like the opening ceremony with record revenue. Maybe this is an obvious question, but Why is this inventory so enticing for advertisers?
I'm 4 months into my time at NBCU, and just the value and interest in this asset is even stronger than I imagined, truly. And I think when you think about it, and it makes complete sense of why this is so interesting for brands and so exciting for consumers. But like, I think from a brand perspective, just even thinking about the state of mind that people are in when they're watching this, they're, especially right now in times when people are divided, like opportunities and places and content that bring people together, that are really moments of joy and happiness and suspense. So the mindset that you are reaching people in that moment is really just so valuable from a marketer perspective. And then I'd say the second is just reach. Like how much reach the Olympics actually drives, the share of attention it drives. So from a marketer perspective, like you find this audience in this really engaged mindset, in moments of happiness and togetherness. We're all rooting for Team USA. And then it also has such incredible reach and share of attention during this time frame where everyone's talking about it, everyone's watching it. So what an opportunity from a marketer perspective to really break through. And then you add to that like the consumer experience too. So thinking about Peacock and all we're doing on the Peacock side on Olympics, that we're going to have thousands of hours of content. You can watch all the different games like never before, different consumer experiences as well. And so that combination is just so powerful. And we're seeing such excitement from the market to surround the games and be in the games.
I say one of the great things about the Olympics is there's so many sports on offer, and people have so many different interests, and so you can go from surfing to track and field to soccer. So it's really an amazing opportunity. I wanted to just also talk about the fact that for the first time you're going programmatic on your streaming service in terms of selling the inventory around the Olympics. Why is that so significant?
Yeah, I mean, from our perspective, we believe deeply in the power of programmatic and strategic audience buying. Brands, programmatic access really democratizes access to these incredible events where Olympics is one of them. Like just even taking a step back, our entire live sports inventory from the NFL to Big Ten and more now programmatically transacted. And with that, the number of advertisers in 2023 actually grew 87% year over year. And the sports revenue doubled, right? So there's just incredible momentum on the number of advertisers that have access to these huge moments. Like they're huge from a reach perspective, they're huge from an attention perspective. And now we're adding Olympics to that. And so when you think about what is the television of today, like what is the opportunity for today? It's precise audiences, bought in real time and measurable, and the ability to optimize. Like now you can do that with Olympics and with all of live sports across Peacock. Like it is amazing how much has really changed in the last few years. And so we're so excited to truly bring this opportunity to advertisers that historically have not been able to participate. We're just so excited to see, all the momentum and get some learnings from it as well.
We always write about how like CTV, but now especially like live sports is like democratizing TV, as you say. When it comes to live sports and perhaps especially like now Olympics, are you seeing certain advertisers more interested, or is interest really like spanning across sectors at this point?
I mean, it's spanning across sectors because I think the Olympics is a really interesting example because of the point that you made before, there's so many different sports that you might be really interested in swimming or as a brand or rock climbing, you can be specialized. But really taking a step back from a sports perspective, like it drives incredible reach and fandom. It's one of the greatest stories told, right? And there's such anticipation as you watch it and suspense. And so that's something that all brands of all different categories really have been interested in. And we've seen just an incredible momentum. And then from the consumer side, it's been tremendous, the ratings. And I think one of the thoughts when streaming came out and we started to put live sports on Peacock was that would cannibalize ratings on linear. But we've not seen that come to life. Like in the last year, rating on sports actually on linear grew and streaming grew. So streaming is just bringing in a whole new audience of viewers that we weren't accessing before. So it's such an opportunity from a consumer perspective. We're creating more ways for them to watch in different ways, but it's also creating and opening up a new door to advertisers that maybe have not been able to access the properties before.
It definitely seems like it's just changing overall, evolving rather, including as what's happening with this week with upfronts. Really, programmatic buys can happen at any time now, and that's altering the traditional upfront marketplace in a sense. Are you seeing this? Are the upfronts basically shifting to that always-on marketplace?
What we're seeing on our end is that there really is a finite amount of truly premium, professionally produced content. That is across the board in linear, but also in streaming. And so when you pair that with wanting to find strategic, more precise audiences, or you have a big sale coming up on, weekend and you want to heavy up during that time frame, like locking in those audiences and reserving them is still incredibly important. And so the role of the upfront and the fact that the upfront is a futures market and you lock in the inventory ahead of time is still very, very important. And we're continuing to see that this year and for next year's upfront. But I think the ways that you want to place that upfront, the ways that you want to say, I'm going to spend this amount and I want it for this audience, but what is the actual tool that you might use to run your campaign, I think has changed. So if you want to run it as a PG deal through a DSP or a PMP deal, that's certainly something that brands have been interested in. And there's a lot of benefits to that too. So I think both things are happening where the upfront is still an important process, reserving inventory is still important, but the underlying tools you use to sort of place that upfront, I think, have been changing.
Now, when you first announced your Olympic programmatic effort a few months ago, you stated, and I thought this was very interesting, we're taking back ownership of performance. We drive performance just as well, if not better, than your Metas and your Googles. Can you go into how investing with NBCU drives this performance for marketers?
Yeah, the team probably at NBCU is like, maybe might be sick of me getting on my soapbox about this, but I just think the idea that there is a media activation type called performance media drives me a little bit bonkers because it leads people to believe that the rest of it doesn't perform. And someone had told me the other day, and I thought this was so interesting. They said, I think that television advertising has a branding problem, ironically. And I'm like, I actually think it does too. Take a step back and you think about what drives performance for advertisers, what moves products off the shelf, what gets people into a dealership, what drives people to studios. It's massive reach, getting as many people as possible. It's finding the right audience, leveraging first-party data or connecting to third-party data. It's tools that help you optimize to get smarter and smarter as you go. And then it's real-time attribution. And when you take a step back, NBCU reaches 90% of US households in a given month. We have massive reach. We deeply know who our consumers are. We have first-party data on over 90 million households. We partner with ad tech to help with real-time optimization. And we're getting smarter and going deeper on real-time attribution. And so I think to me, the real difference here and the one that we're really excited to sort of work through with our clients is getting faster attribution and measurement in their hands so that they can understand performance and don't have to rely on MMM models that can take 9 months to a year. And it's not actually that the performance is any less than these other players. It's the perception of the research and the attribution studies that they don't have as quickly as possible. Like we were just in this client meeting and she was telling us like all of these social platforms are all claiming incrementality on all of this. And yet they're not even selling as much as in aggregate they're all saying they're getting credit for, right? Like there needs to be a reassessment of what does attribution actually mean? How do you look at it holistically? And I think there's leveraging NBCU's portfolio and understanding the power of the platform as quickly as possible is goal number one for us this year. If you think about like calculation of performance and what drives performance for an advertiser, how a consumer sees that ad, what is their mindset and what is the experience around seeing that ad is so critical. And I think sometimes underappreciated. Peacock, we take this so seriously. Our ad load is the lowest. one of the lowest, if not the lowest of all the premium AVODs. When you are a buyer, you own the pod from a category perspective. So if you are a financial service brand, you own that pod and there's no one else that's near you for the minutes between those breaks. Like that is so powerful from a brand perspective, and it drives results with the consumers they're trying to reach. Our pause ads that we run are beautiful and done creatively, and it drives incredible impact for brands too. And when you add that combination of, innovative ad units, a great consumer experience, we just see time and time again that it drives results. And we hear people tell us all the time, like they're users of Peacock, but also other streaming channels, and they feel the difference. And if you feel it as a consumer, it also means that when an advertiser shows up, you are feeling a different way about them and their products in that moment. So we just take that so seriously. And the fact of the matter is Peacock was built for advertisers first. We didn't retrofit ads in after the fact. And so it really allowed us to be really thoughtful about building both of these at the same exact time versus figuring one out and then trying to get the other one shoved in there after the fact.
I read that local markets have a really significant influence on audiences and that national brands can connect with audiences more effectively when they speak with a local voice. And I know that your remit is across national and local. As you oversee that, what's your observation on that point?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say it's really been exciting working across the national and local teams. And there's been so much momentum on the local business around digital and our ad property called Spot On. It's our offering that we have that's basically allows you to find your audience across Peacock and other digital endpoints, specific geos and DMAs. I think a great example of where we're going with this is the launch of Spot On Auto. So that product in particular actually syncs up with Constellation with Tier 3 Auto and lets Tier 3 Auto in a seamless way activate across our Peacock inventory. And as you know, there's tremendous opportunity in that category, tremendous growth from a digital standpoint. And so new tech products and innovations like that to go capture the Tier 3 auto market, but also other local markets has been really, really exciting. An area of opportunity. And then to your point, when you marry that with what is the national business doing, right? So the Tier 1, and what is the impact of running Tier 1 plus Tier 2 auto plus Tier 3 auto on driving people to a dealership. So we're really excited about the early findings we're seeing from Spot On Auto and a lot more to come there.
Goes back to driving performance.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, one final question for you. As obviously we're going into this huge summer for NBCU with Olympics, programmatic on Peacock. Looking into your crystal ball, what do you imagine for the future ahead of that? How can NBCU even top that?
Yeah, well, I am very excited for this summer, and I'm so excited for Paris, quite personally. One of the things I think that's underappreciated about NBCU, that we've been leading in television and video innovation for decades. Right? Like the first NFL game ever aired on NBC was 100 years ago. The first viral clip ever on YouTube was SNL. The largest streaming day ever was on Peacock. And I'm excited for us to take back that narrative a little bit in the market. Like we've been quietly leading in innovation for decades. We continue to do so. And we do it because brands have always been, and our partners, number one for us. We think about when we wake up and when we go to bed at night, like making their campaign successful. And we've been innovating to do that. And we are continuing to do that. So I just say, just thinking about everything we've been doing on Peacock over the last 12 months, everything that we were doing on attribution and measurement, all of our work on strategic audiences and Opta, just imagine what we'll do in the next 12 months.
And that's it for this edition of The Current Podcast. We'll be back next week, so stay tuned.
The Current Podcast theme is by Love and Caliber. The Current team includes Kat Vesey and Sydney Cairns.
And remember,
Adults 18 to 49 is a family reunion. It's not a buying tactic.
I'm Damien.
And I'm Elise.
And we'll see you next time. And if you like what you hear, please subscribe and leave us a review. Also, tune in to our other podcast, The Current Report.